You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This isn't a blood hole. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I am your host, Ryan Lauer. Make sure you quickly head to the rate and review page of whatever podcast outlet you're listening to and help rate and review this show. It's free, fast, and helps spread the word, which, as we all know, is Bannock. The Batman Book Club is also on Patreon, so if you like what's going on with the show and want to help keep those generators running in the Wayne Manor study, just go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc. Now, this is yet another special episode. I feel like it's a sequel to episode 236 that dropped back in May. Just make sure if you haven't yet to go back and check out that episode. And joining me and returning back to the show to talk to me is a legendary writer, Steve Englehart. Steve, thanks for sitting down, coming back and talking to me about some Batman.
Sure.
Yeah. It was a great time last time. Great feedback from people. A lot of people loved hearing your experiences on Strange Apparitions. And yeah, they were looking forward to, because I said at the end, maybe I'll see if you can come back here and talk again. And you said yes. So I was holding you to it.
I noticed that you're dressed like Batman.
A little bit. Yeah. I was just telling you before we hit record, I love it when we get our fall weather in Indiana, because I can start wearing hoodies. And this is a very comfortable zip up Batman hoodie that I adore. So I've been waiting. And finally we're at chilly weather and I like it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you. Before, I didn't ask you last time, before we dive into the main subject this time, I didn't ask you last time, and I'm sure you've said it everywhere many a times, but what got you into comics professionally?
Just I liked them.
Yep.
I read them as a kid. I outgrew them, as kids do. And then I got reintroduced to them with the Marvel thing in the 60s. My first book, somebody handed me a Ditko Spider-Man, and then I went down to the newsstand and bought the latest Fantastic Four, which happened to be 49, right in the middle of the Galactus Silver Surfer thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if that doesn't make you a comic fan, I don't know what would.
Yeah.
So I just liked them and enjoyed doing them. And I was going to college like 2 hours outside New York, so it wasn't a big deal to go to New York. And this was before there was real much fandom. I mean, there was people putting out fanzines on their mimeograph machines or whatever, but it still wasn't a thing to like go to the companies. But I went to the companies and I went to Marvel and they said, "We love you, but we're a small organization in a small office. We can't
Hard
really
to believe."
do anything with you." And then I went over to DC and they said, "Well, I don't know, do you want to talk to Julie Schwartz?" And I said, "Sure." And Julie gave me a half hour of his time, and so, just all in all, comics became not mystical at all. I mean, it's like people were doing comics, and I'm not real sure exactly when I said that's what I want to do, but I was on that track, and somewhere along that track that's how I ended up there.
That's awesome. Almost seems like you just walked in and was like, I want to talk to who's in charge here. I want to talk to him.
Well,
You're so intimidating.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be intimidating, but
Yeah.
I was a fan and I just
Yeah.
wanted to go. And then you might appreciate this, but that summer after I'd been handed the Spider-Man and started to read Marvels and stuff, I went home to Indianapolis from college and the local distributor distributed like the high-end Marvels, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, but they didn't distribute X-Men and Daredevil and so forth. And I called them up and I said, I want those books. So they started distributing it, at least to my local drugstore or wherever it was that you got comics in those days. So no, I was working it.
Yeah.
from the
That'd be
start.
that'd be hilarious if someone could track down and look at, the Indianapolis comic market for Daredevil and X-Men.
Yeah,
Like there's this
yeah,
massive spike, huh? And it's just never gone down. I wonder what happened there. Steve happened. That's what
yeah.
happened. He picked up a phone, made a phone call. What was your first
Yeah.
writing assignment for comics?
Uh, well, I was handed um, a six-page monster story that Gary Friedrich didn't want to write.
Hmm.
Um, they just somebody had to write it, and nobody particularly wanted to write it, I guess. I don't know. But they looked at me, who was not a writer. I was an artist at that
Hmm.
point. But they said, "You want to give this a shot?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not? I mean, I'll
Yeah.
whatever." And I liked writing it. I went home that night and I wrote it. I enjoyed it, and they liked what I wrote. So then they started giving me more stuff. And in those days, Marvel published um, romances, westerns, and monsters in
Hmm.
addition to the superheroes. And so you had to work your way up because the superheroes were the thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I wrote some romance stories. I wrote some monster stories.
Wow.
I wrote some western stories, and they continued to think that it was okay. So then eventually I got the Beast in
Hmm.
Amazing Adventures, and then it was superheroes after
And
that.
then here we are. And
Yeah,
last thing about Marvel, before we shift, you'd said, you kind of got in right in the big Galactus portion. Did you see the Fantastic Four movie that came out this
yeah,
summer? What
yeah.
did you think of that?
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't see Galactus walking on things.
Yeah.
I've always seen Galactus as just sort of hovering,
Yeah.
So
Sure.
the idea that he walks across New York, that was a little strange, I thought.
Hmm.
I, you know, and I thought that they hit the thing of like, we're a family several more times than they needed to.
Needed to. Yeah.
But,
Sure.
but as a general rule, yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, good. Because I know for some people they've been waiting who have been, lifelong Fantastic Four fans and touching something like Galactus. There's a lot of, fan pressure of did they get it right? And it
Yeah.
seems like for a lot of fans that they got it right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I don't see him walking, but
Mostly
it was
right.
definitely him
Hmm.
as opposed to the previous Fantastic Four movie where he
Yeah.
was just some sort of nebulous thing in
A
the sky
planet or something. Yeah.
or
That was
whatever that
weird.
was. Um,
Exactly.
it's interesting. I mean, again, you could see like the Thing's girlfriend. I mean, he met this
Hmm.
girl and they did something, and then later in the movie, he went to see her, but you could tell there was more that had been left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yep.
interesting to see the uncut version
Yeah.
um, of that,
Flesh
which,
it out a little bit.
yeah, the director's cut, whatever the deal was, whatever they decided they needed. I mean, they make decisions based on how is the movie moving fast enough and so on and
Hmm.
so forth. And I guess she was sort of superfluous, and at the same time she was in there, so it was kind of like I'd like to see what the whole story was.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Maybe one day, because they're always obsessed with giving, the extended and
Yeah,
director's cuts, and we'll constantly get those, especially with streaming now. So I think one day.
yeah,
Uh, we'll shift gears and go to the competitor. Let's go to DC now. Last time you came on here, we talked and I gushed about obviously your acclaim to writing of Batman Strange Apparitions, yours and
yeah.
Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin's run,
And Terry Austin.
which I've said so many times that, it wasn't just because I was talking to you. I always talk about this because I love that run. And there was not long, surprisingly, after I found out about Strange Apparitions, I found out about the sequel, Batman Dark Detective. Ta-da! And that's what we're going to talk about today. In which to
Okay.
you'd mentioned on the last time we talked that between you and Marshall and Terry, this Batman Dark Detective was actually Dark Detective 2. Strange Apparitions was Dark Detective, but in all publishing anywhere, I'm sure the company itself they do what they want to do. So
Yeah, yeah,
what I guess I mean we can go linear, we can jump all over the place. I got a whole page of questions for you, but this Batman Dark Detective it came out just about 30 years after Strange Apparitions. So I really would love to, because I've heard you talk about Strange Apparitions more so than the Dark Detective. So I want to hear a lot about where, how did it even start? How did it even come together?
Well, I've talked many times about my relationship with DC is not
Yeah.
the best. Um, and so after Marshall and Terry and I did the first one
Hmm.
in 1976, they decided to make a movie out of it. And then 10 years later, they came to me and they said, well, we can't really get what you guys did. Can you help the movie? And so I script doctored the movie. And then the movie came out and they changed Silver St. Cloud to Vicky Vale and Boss Thorne to Boss Grissom. And I asked them why. And they said, so we don't have to pay you any royalties. And that was kind of like DC's. Um, there's a contingent at DC to this day, remnants of it, that were offended that I was brought in to fix the company because it was their company,
Mm.
and Jeanette Kahn invited me in to like fix the Justice League, and I got Batman out of that
Yeah.
negotiation. So for 30 years, even though Strange Apparitions is what it is, DC didn't want us to do any more, right? They,
Hmm.
there was a contingent, and I heard during over those years, we're just getting into this, but I mean, I heard over those years that there were people up there who said, well, what did they do? I mean, they just recycled stuff from the 40s and
I disagree.
there
Anyways, carry
there
on.
was well, there was so there was that. And then so for 30 years, nobody asked us to do it. And we
Yeah.
can't do Batman, obviously, unless DC says do Batman. And then in 76, or sorry, 2006 or 2004, somewhere in there, whenever,
Hmm.
when the Christopher Nolan movies were about to come out, Dan DiDio, who was now the new guy, Jeanette Kahn was the one who brought me in the first place. Now Dan DiDio comes and he says, I love you. I want to do more Batman stuff, primarily because we've got movies coming out and we want a lot of Batman material out there.
Yeah.
But you guys, he gave us the whole thing about how fabulous we were and how much he loved us and all that. I've been in comics and Hollywood long enough to let that kind of go, It's like, okay,
Yeah.
sure. But so we did do the second one, Dark Detective. Um, and then, as you probably know,
Hmm.
we might have talked about this last time.
A little bit.
Uh, we did a third one, and then Marshall died after he'd penciled the first issue, 99%. Um, and our editor at DC called up Terry Austin and said, there are people dancing in the aisles here that they don't have to publish that now. Um,
Mm.
so the third one never got published. Um, and to bring this story to
Sure.
its latest conclusion, um, 6 months ago, Jim Lee, who's now the new guy at
Yeah.
DC, um, said he wanted to publish it. He wanted to do it. And um, we got to a point where he texted me and said, we're going to start in 2 weeks. And then 2 months went by.
Ah.
And then, it's like I'm assuming that it's the same contingent. I mean, obviously, 50 years later, it's the sons of that, and it's the people in the institution, whatever. But apparently, we're not doing the third one now.
Mm.
So that's the entire story of my history with Batman and DC. But now we can talk about Dark
Well,
Detective that did get
well,
published.
yeah, and I mean, and I guess we'll get there, but I thought so after talking to you last time and how you had mentioned that like, you just talked to Jim Lee. You didn't say anything additional other than you just talked to him. And
Uh,
I thought maybe because, they just wrapped up the latest um 10 issue series of The Long Halloween, but Tim Sale had passed. And so Jeff Loeb ended up gathering a different artist for each issue. And so you have a continuation of this sort of, this own little Batman universe, but you don't have the original artist with it. So I thought maybe because Strange Apparitions, Dark Detective is so, praised, you've already got it written. Basically, it's like, your portion's done. They
All
could
right.
find another artist that could, respect Marshall, and Terry could be on it with some. I thought, well, I think that the Long Halloween part opened a door for this to become a possibility again. So,
Well, I mean, apparently, I guess it did or whatever. I mean, again,
yeah,
Jim wanted to do it,
yeah,
but apparently Jim was overruled.
yeah,
Um,
a bummer.
yeah, what we were going to do, I was looking for an artist. I was looking for one artist to do the five unpenciled issues.
Hmm.
Um, and I wanted somebody who, when you picked up the second issue, your brain wouldn't go, "Whoa, that's, completely
Yeah,
not Marshall." I found the guy who's been drawing the Flash, Vasco Gergiev. I
hmm,
thought kind of did his stuff would fit with Marshall, so
sure,
that was my choice. But we never got to the point. For all I know, he's like super slow, or he's not any fun to work with, or any. I mean, I
gotcha.
I don't know. I just looked at
Yeah,
his art and I said that would be the guy. So that was the plan,
gotcha.
to do
Huh.
to have the one guy do it. Um, when Marshall died, um, both Walt Simonson and Paul Gulacy said they would do it, but DC didn't want to do it, right? And
Yeah.
so I talked to Walt, and Walt said, well, he's working on his Ragnarok. Um, I don't know if it's a graphic album or
Yeah,
a
sure.
series of
Yeah.
things, but he wants to do his own thing. Paul Gulacy's completely retired. And then I talked to Kevin Nolan, who said he would love to do it. He said, he kept coming back to that. His point, however, was that he's like super slow, and DC knows that he's super slow, and they would never let him do it. But he really wanted to do it. He kept saying. Um, so, had we gone forward, I would have, talked to DC about
Yeah,
whether Kevin could do it. I mean,
sure.
there's no particular time frame on this thing, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but as I say, they just all of a sudden it went into limbo.
I was gonna say, is it more in limbo, or did you get word that it's doors shut?
I didn't get a specific word. That's why
Okay,
I say limbo.
sure.
I mean, it
Yeah,
was just like Jim Lee was like, "Yeah, we're going to do it. Yep, we're getting close. We're going to do it." And then, as I say, one Friday afternoon, in early September, I got a text out of the blue saying, "We're going to start in 2 weeks." Then 2 months went by. And
yeah,
then, when I got in touch with Jim again, he was like, well, I'll have somebody look into that. It was kind of
gotcha.
like all of a sudden he was not, he
Just-
didn't have the authority anymore,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
to do
that's
it.
wild. Well, I'm
So,
I'm an eternal optimist. So I feel
okay.
like you didn't hear, no, it is not happening. So then, like Lloyd Christmas and Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hold
Yeah.
out hope.
Yeah. 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 Well, it'd be nice,
I hope so.
as you say, the story, I wrote the story 20 years ago now,
Yeah.
but I like the story.
Hmm.
And as you say, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably 50 years worth of people who would be interested in this.
Absolutely.
And it would seem like it would be a no-brainer
Yeah.
seller for DC.
I
But
mean, it's
as I
it's
say, there's
Batman.
people up there that just do not, they just took
Yeah,
offense way
that's
back when
crazy.
that that
That's
that
crazy.
the outsider came in and did what they couldn't do. So
It's not to blow smoke up your butt. It's you one, an artist would see it's Batman, and two, it would be able to draw script or draw two scripts from Steve Englehart, who like you check anything, and it's like a definitive line of Batman history is this run with you, Marshall, and Terry. So
it's
I
definitely
don't
an
know.
alternative. It's its own shoot at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, the whole thing with Silver St. Cloud has never become the mainstream
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
stuff. But I personally I could see how, again, there's so many different Batman interpretations out there now that you could do this kind of
Absolutely.
one
Yeah,
thing. I mean, I
absolutely.
was even talking about let's do Dark Detective 4, let's continue
Yeah.
it and just make it a thing. But it just
Bummer.
went
I
away.
have no pull with DC, but hopefully the right person will hear this and be like, "Let's get the ball rolling again, okay? I feel like it got stopped. Let's keep pushing it so we can get over the hill and let's get moving on it."
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, let's talk some happier times. These should be easier questions than
Yeah.
last time around because last time around I was asking you, "Hey, Steve, 50 years ago when you were writing,
Yeah.
and now it's only 20. So
That's
can you
right.
remember 20
Yeah.
years ago and how
Yeah.
the ball for Dark Detective or Dark Detective 2 to you got rolling with that? Was it simply an email or a phone call or
No, that was Dan DiDio.
okay?
There was a convention in San Francisco. Um, and Marshall and I were both going to be there, and he came out. I don't think specifically for us. I think he
Yeah.
came as the head of DC to go to this convention, but he took us aside, and said he really wanted to do this, and as I say, big fans of your guys' work
Hmm.
and so all this kind of stuff. Um, so okay, we've been asked to do it again after 30 years. Um, and the thing about brains is 30 years doesn't mean anything, right? I
Hmm.
mean, when asked to revisit that, I didn't have to go, oh, well, who were they again? How did that work? It's like, no,
Yeah.
I know who they are.
Yeah.
So I just continued the Batman Silver St. Cloud storyline, um, but with her having moved on to a different guy. Um, and I made sure that the guy, Evan Gregory, was like a good guy, not
Yeah.
not some obvious stooge who was just there to be shoved aside when Batman came back.
Yeah.
So it made for I used to write romance stories,
Yeah. There you go.
um,
They were your building blocks for Dark Detective. That's what it was.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I read all that stuff too. I mean,
sure.
when I was a fanboy, I read all the romance books. I know Patsy and Hetty's story,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Um, so yeah, I wanted to craft this story, and that's the story I crafted. Yeah.
Did you roughly already have a story in mind, or you just knew
No,
revisiting Batman and Silver, and that was like your starting point?
I don't plot stories that I'm not going to write. I mean,
Yeah,
when I got into writing, it was like in the midst of Marvel Comics on a monthly, and it's like that's what I learned to do. So, um, throughout my career, it's like, here's this month's story. I may have some ideas about where things are going to go, but I don't really know until next month when
yeah.
I have to like make that story.
Hmm.
And so no, I had no Silver St. Cloud Batman thing in mind. But when asked to do it, then
Hmm.
I engage with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it much different. Um, What do I say? A lot had changed over 30 years, and that now you knew Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin, and you knew
Yeah.
that they were going to be on the book that you're writing. So, in the creation, I guess, first off, from when you talked to Dan until you had some finished scripts, how long or short was that time period? And not like day, but like, it was a couple months, it was a month, it was half a year.
Uh, that's a good question. I mean, it wasn't all that long because again,
Sure.
my experience with comics is it's periodical. It comes out every month,
Yeah,
so when asked to write a story, I get into it
get
and
to it.
turn it out. So, I
Sure. Yeah, not
can't
too long.
say
That
how
works.
long. I mean, but it wasn't like a
Hmm.
great length of time or anything.
Yeah.
I just, I sat down um and thought about what I wanted to do. I'm trying to remember if I even consulted with Marshall or Terry. On the third one,
Hmm.
um, that I wrote when Marshall obviously was still alive,
Yeah.
I did consult with him. We'd get together every week and have coffee and talk about what I wanted to do and what he wanted to draw and stuff like that. But the second one, the earlier one, I'm don't don't recall
Yeah.
talking to him
Okay.
particularly.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to be a next question. If it was now that you are, friends and that you knew these two others, if there was, hey, let's all meet and work this out together. If it was, no, Steve writes and then we'll draw and we'll, talk as we're going through the drawing or something.
Yeah, well, my favorite way of doing comics is the Marvel method, which is where you um, tell the artist the story in kind of shorthand. I mean, here's what the story is, and let them draw it so that they have as much self-expression as possible in telling the story artistically. And then it comes back and I write the dialogue,
Hmm.
which I prefer that on all levels because it's more fun for the artist, I would think.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the same art you're going to see, so I know what to write to fit that exactly. Marshall, on the other hand, preferred full script. He was one of the few guys that I've worked with who really liked having the whole thing
Hmm.
there to start with, and then he would figure out how he was going to deal with it. So I didn't have to talk to Marshall when I was doing that. I just, the scripts, it was up to me to write the full scripts, right?
Hmm.
And um, again, it's not like I froze him out. It's just like
Sure.
he wasn't involved in that process and he was happy to
Yeah.
do that. I just mentioned when I did Doctor Strange with
Hmm.
Frank Brunner, Brunner and I got together and talked and did stuff and worked it out between us. When Brunner left and Gene Colan came on, Colan just wanted the scripts. He didn't care, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I offered, you want to get involved? Nope, I'll just draw it. So everybody's different in that
Hmm.
regard.
Yeah, so maybe annoyingly so, I always get really interested in the creating of process and how, like what was written
Mm.
first, did you work together and all that. So that was something that was definitely on my mind for this time around because I'd read enough and heard you talk about enough for the first run, how you'd already written them. And I think it's really funny how kind of two different ways of so you'd rather do a Marvel method, he'd rather have full scripts, and yet the book still turned out as good as it did.
Well,
That's
yeah,
great.
I
It's
mean, it's
applaudable.
it's up to me, as a professional to
Yeah,
make it turn out good,
sure.
however they want to do it. But comics is a hybrid medium, a collaborative medium. So
Yeah,
whatever the artist wants affects what I'm going
yeah,
to do. Hopefully, we'll get to the same place either way.
yeah. Do you remember with scripts? Because as is with anything with any company, I totally understand this. It's not like Steve can write whatever he wants and that's what's getting printed. Was there much you sending to DC and them giving you some notes, or you feel they were pretty good, happy with what you gave them?
Yeah, well, again, it was the editor this time. First time was Julie Schwartz. Second time was
Hmm.
Joey Cavallari. Um, I don't recall a lot of feedback
Yeah,
on it. Um, I'm trying to think if I don't think so. No, I think I just wrote them and
nice.
they took them. Now,
Hmm.
what people inside the company were saying when they got them, I don't know,
Who
but
cares?
yeah.
Who cares? They liked it. Um, I think so. Maybe not as much as the first one, but these 6 issues, there's a through line for sure.
Hmm.
But they almost are a little standalone-ish as well. Was that your goal in mind when constructing the story?
Yeah, I mean, in the first run, I mean, we had a series of villains, and I knew in
Yeah,
the first one I was going to do the Joker and the Penguin and Boss Thorne. Um, Hugo Strange. Um, so in the second one, I wanted to do the Scarecrow, and I wanted to do these guys who hadn't
yeah.
been involved in it before. Um, so the through line was Bruce, Silver, and Evan. The villains were along the way. It's a
Hmm.
Batman series, and hopefully they were good villains, and the Batman stuff was good. But the the real through line was the relationship.
Hmm. Yeah. And these, so you already had mentioned, so Joker, because I feel like if how can you pass up the opportunity to use the Joker again, especially
Right.
after doing one of the greatest Joker stories of all time last go around. But Two-Face and Scarecrow, in which actually it's funny too that on the Dark Detective trade cover that it doesn't have Joker. But don't worry, the back does. Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
Um,
and that picture right there, I mean,
that
that
cover,
first cover, "Vote for Me or I'll Kill You," which was perfect. I just loved it for
awesome.
the Joker, and now it has far more resonance in other ways than it used
Oh my
to.
goodness. Yeah. And it is used. I see it spread online every election season,
Hmm.
in our, comic book circles and everything. Like that is used so much that I'm sure there can be some people are like, I don't know what comic that is, but I know that image. I know that
Yeah,
image for sure. And was
yeah.
that something that was there any talk to you about what Marshall is going to do for covers, or is this just you were just
No,
surprised because they were finished and this is
yeah,
what you've
no,
seen?
he did. That was
Awesome.
him.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. Great cover.
there was no, I mean, it wasn't a really 2006. I mean, it was politics as usual in those days.
Yeah, sure.
It wasn't what we've got going on now.
Yeah.
So I had no particular beef. I just thought, I just loved that concept, "Vote for me or I'll kill you." So that's why the
Hmm.
Joker was, running for governor or whatever he was
Yeah,
running for,
for governor.
Um, the, the image sort of drove the where some of that plot went.
Yeah. I mean, while we're talking with covers, I think another that by far and away is uh the most recognized of this batch of stories of that cover. But for me, Scarecrow's one of my favorite villains, so I love that cover of his also
Yeah.
for the issue number 4 in that. And then I thought and it's not for the reason that I'm sure people jump right to, but the last cover here with Joker, Silver, and Batman, I feel like that has such an old horror kind of pulp magazine feel to it
Pulp
too, and I
was
think it's a very striking cover, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, pulp to me is essential to the Batman. I mean,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
can be a fascist guy on a rooftop wearing armor, doing whatever, but
Hmm.
what he should be is somebody with a lot of ambiance, a lot of, where you can feel the darkness and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So, I always want to get that in there.
Hmm.
And so that last one, the
Hmm.
Joker's house with the weird stairways and the death traps and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I that's where the Joker lives, right?
Yeah.
That would seem like where the Joker ought to be. And so I devoted a whole issue to that because I like that.
I was gonna say, how fun was that for you to write the Joker's house, and it's just a death trap house?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the thing about the Joker is, I've said this maybe last time, but his plans always work or would work if they weren't disrupted. But I mean, it's not, if he wants to rob a bank, he would probably say, I want to get a pony and a tutu parachuting
Yeah.
in the midst of this. But
Yeah.
that would be part of the plan that would actually work. He doesn't just
Hmm.
throw stuff in to be weird. So, I liked the fact that he lived in this place where, yeah, it's like there's all these real death traps in it all the time, and he likes to live there, and so
Yeah. I mean, it's good and it's fun and very shocking because I mean you have the what do you say, you tease the threats and Batman escapes them, but then it also lives up to it by this whole group of officers fall, they get killed by this death trap house, and then even Evan loses 2 out of 4 of his limbs from it too.
that's
So
right.
it's
That's right.
it sticks with you not just because it's fun, but there's an actual threat there, and it like provides danger in the sense of like you have this good guy to your, like what you'd said, you want to introduce somebody that is a good character, he's a good character, good guy, and then he succumbs to the death trap house halfway.
Yeah. Well, the Joker, Joker was from in his earliest incarnation a homicidal maniac,
Hmm.
and we got away from that until we brought it back in the original Batman run. Dark Detective One, as we
Mm,
call
that's right.
it. And since then, people have leaned heavily into the whole homicidal maniac thing,
Yeah.
but definitely that's what I think he is. And so, um, not only is his house full of actual death traps, but they can provide death to people.
Hmm.
Um, and the whole thing with Evan getting his arm and his leg cut off, um, was kind of a lead in into the next
The next
series,
one.
which doesn't exist yet, but exists in
Yet.
my brain.
That's right.
On my computer it exists. Um, um, but that was, that clearly wasn't like the end of the story. We thought we were going to keep going, and
Hmm.
then, but even then, somehow forces within prevailed, and
Hmm.
and we were cut off again, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I've said, I'm known for a lot of different characters.
Hmm.
Marshall was primarily known for the Batman, and the fact that he never could do the Batman, uh, you know, was stress to
Yeah.
him. You
Ah.
know, he wanted to do it, but you can't do it if DC won't let you do it, doesn't ask you
Yeah.
to do it. So, I mean, if I couldn't do the Batman, I could go do something else.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
so
Oh, that's a bummer. Uh, so we'll put the Joker to the side. You like two others that I just mentioned with, Scarecrow and Two-Face as Scarecrow first. Was he somebody had you written Scarecrow prior to this?
no,
Okay, so were you really excited to get into that character?
I was. Well, he was. The Batman villains. There's the Joker up here,
Yeah.
and then there's the Penguin. Although the Penguin's moving up,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and then after that, Two-Face, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy. They're solid, but I
Hmm.
mean the Joker just puts them
Yeah.
all sort of
Oh
one
yeah.
level down, right? So the Scarecrow was a place to go. I'm not super. I mean, he can make people afraid. Okay, so you can. That's your story. How do you overcome that? But it's kind of a one note thing. So and he looks good. That's true.
Hmm.
But so no, the Scarecrow was more. It's his turn. He comes up now. But I wasn't super. It wasn't like I really
Yeah.
lusted to write the
I
Scarecrow.
understand.
Two-Face, on the other hand, I liked quite a bit.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of so I get what you're saying on with Scarecrow and Two-Face. There's a lot of I mean just the whole two aspect gives you a ton of toys to
Right,
play with to
right,
include with some story with him. And I think what you came up with in this story too is I admittedly, I haven't read every single Batman comic, but I have not come across where there are two clones of Two-Face, but one is all good side and one is all bad side. I
right.
think what a fun idea that was too.
Yeah,
I think you could have done
yeah,
6 issues on a story like that.
yeah. Well, Two-Face, Two-Face does continue into the
Yeah.
third run, because I had more to do with him.
Hmm.
Um, uh, pretty soon I was going to get down to Tweedledum and Tweedledee, and
Sure. Yeah.
or whatever whatever those guys were called.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Mad Hatter. Well, I did, Mad Hatter's good.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway,
Yeah. But he's Two-Face is a good character. Because I think we have so much Batman media out now, some of these characters that were further down the villain chain keep getting pushed up because there's more stories containing these, sometimes used to be C-listers, now maybe they're B-list villains and stuff
right,
like that. But I mean, sometimes for us, we think of Two-Face as like he's been around forever. And sometimes a general population watching these movies, they saw Two-Face in 1995 for the first time in Batman Forever, and then they saw him in The Dark Knight in 2008, and that was only the second time. So he's not really well known maybe to the masses, but for us, we're like, oh, he's been around my whole life and plus some.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he's so striking. I mean, even if you don't
Yeah.
see him very often, he really sticks with you. I mean, the
Hmm.
Scarecrow's, I know you like the Scarecrow, but I mean, it's like Scarecrow, he
Hmm.
looks cool,
Yeah.
but he looks like a Scarecrow.
Hmm.
Whereas Two-Face with the two faces and the really,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
I think
It's
he just pops
uncomfortable.
out more,
It could be very uncomfortable to
Yeah,
look at him.
yeah.
Do you know if I mean this is maybe a deep pull, but did you ever see there's a Super Friends episode called The Fear that was Scarecrow was the focus of that one?
No.
Then it's maybe me projecting, but your issue where Batman goes to confront Scarecrow at the barn out on the farm, um, the aesthetics of it, like all that imagery looks so close to that 1985 episode of Super Friends that I think Alan Burnett even wrote it, and it's like one of the most serious actual Super Friends episodes they ever created. It was the first time I believe that the Wayne murders were actually mentioned, and Scarecrow, used fear on Batman, and it was like almost like a what do you want to say? A proposal for the 90s cartoon because it stands out in a more mature, as a
Okay.
more mature episode than the rest of Super Friends. And there's some similarities there, which to your credit too, how you said Scarecrow can be kind of one note. He deals with fear, he looks like a scarecrow. Well, in that episode, he dealt with fear and he looked like a scarecrow. But like
Yeah.
the setting and everything, the two I connect the two. And it's nothing but positive. But I was curious if
No, I
you'd
never
ever seen that.
watched Super Friends
Yeah.
that no,
Nope.
I
Yeah.
don't usually watch the animated
Yeah.
stuff.
Did
Um,
you did you ever see any of the 90s cartoons since they borrowed some,
well, yeah, I mean,
some
I
of these
saw the
elements?
episodes that they used my stuff in.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not, for whatever reason,
Hmm.
I mean, the animated series looked great and they had
Yeah,
good stories and all that kind of stuff, but I never could commit to it. I
sure.
mean, I'd catch an episode here or there.
A villain, and here's your deep pull. So much like in Strange Apparitions, you went to the archives and you got Hugo Strange and you brought in Deadshot. Dr. Double X,
Yeah.
who I looked up, and his debut was in 1958, Detective Comics number 261. And I will always admit that I had no idea who this character was, that he was a real character, that you didn't just create him yourself. I knew nothing about Dr. Double X.
I think that was primarily Marshall's idea. I think he liked
Nice.
Dr. Double X, and
Hmm.
so that's how Dr. Double X got in there. He goes on in the third episode in the third series too. Um, Third series is basically sort of a continuation of the
Sure.
second
Yeah.
series, you know?
I'm hearing that.
Um, yeah. Um, so, but I liked him.
Hmm.
I mean, he's not particularly striking looking, but just the concept, the double X thing.
Hmm.
Um, there was fun things to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And as all stories, I mean, especially, I mean, you could say no matter the medium, um, it's like everything is there for a reason. And so you could have just named this, Dr. Miller, if it was
Right.
just supposed to be a throwaway guy, but very specific name that stands out, Dr. Double X. Like, well,
Hmm.
nobody has that name. I've
Right.
never been to a hospital that has Dr. Double X performing on me, and
I
I
hope
will not
not.
want that surgery if
Yeah.
I'm your doctor, Dr. Double X. A name that was not included this batch, not that he had like the largest role, was Gordon in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I mean, there's not necessarily any kind of follow up. It was just like, noticing of like, oh, Gordon's not in this one. And then it made me wonder of like, wait, was he in the first run? And then, I went back and flipped through real quick. I was like, yeah, he was in that a little bit. But no, he's absent in Dark Detective.
Just wasn't room
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
We had 8 issues for the first one. We only had 6 for the second one. So,
Yeah.
um, again, beginning, middle, and an end, it's all got to
Hmm.
fit within the 6 issues, and
Yeah.
so
He's getting the axe.
other people took up the space.
He went to the death trap house. He didn't come out. He
Uh,
like he got slashed.
he's been dead
Um,
since
yeah.
2005. They
How
stood to say.
far into your do you feel in the process of writing Dark Detective 2, in your mind, did you think I've got more here? I've got another story in me.
Yeah, well, somewhere in there, yes. I mean, DiDio asked for a limited series. I don't know if he said six from the start,
Hmm.
but I mean, fairly quickly it was established that it was going to be 6 issues. Um, and he was so upbeat about the whole thing that we did assume that we would, just sort of that we were back, that
Yeah.
we were gonna continue. We'd do the 6 issues, then we do another 6 issues because it can all be gathered into a graphic album kind of thing, the way that
Yeah.
that happens these days. But um, so the the 6 issues I had to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at the same time, there was more to do with those characters. And so
Yeah.
that's why, when I wrote the third one, that's,
Hmm.
it's just like we're going on from there. Um, and in my brain, I said earlier, I don't plot stuff until I have to do it. And so I have not plotted them, but I know kind of what the fourth run would be if there were such a thing.
Yeah.
Just overall as
Sure.
what the overall concept would be. Um, but again, they've never greenlit a fourth series, and so it never goes past the general concept in my brain because I'm not obliged to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Something that's always fun to notice in Batman comics, and I don't know the unwritten rule or the mandate amongst writers and artists is the name game, and that sometimes if it's streets are always named after you've been named tons of times as streets uh in Gotham City, Rogers Avenues and Rogers Streets and stuff as well. And in here, I mean, you dropped a couple. I think Irv Novik shows up at some point, or Novik.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which way. Um,
Well,
Sheldon Maldorf is where Silver St. Cloud is going. That's very close to
mhm.
another known name. And then Julius Schwartz doesn't just get a name mention, he gets a cameo in this one.
Right. He was already dead at that point, which is why he
Yeah.
looks,
Hmm.
blank-eyed. But that was, yeah, Marshall and I both really liked Julie. I mean, everybody liked Julie.
Yeah.
And so here was our chance he'd been our editor on the first run, so we
Yeah.
wanted to do something with him. In the first run, I had the Fox Gardens, I think, and I'm a big fan of everybody who went before me.
Yeah.
I mean, I got here because I was reading their stuff, looking at their art. So um, uh, I kind of wanted to name check a few
Hmm.
people. Um, just, you know, and it's interesting that people are name checking me now,
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Uh, what was it? So, I would hope that someday I can get an editor on here because, just like I said, to maybe annoyingly, of I'm always curious in the creative process. But like, what does a Batman editor do? And I always hear all this about nothing but positives with Julius Schwartz. But like, what was it like working, with him?
He was just a good guy. I mean,
Yeah.
when Jeanette took me to lunch and said she wanted me to fix the Justice League and I said okay, but I want to do the Batman too.
Hmm.
And over lunch we worked all that out. That was all with Julie as the editor, and Julie's reputation was that he was a very hands-on editor who kind of drove his writers. And my reputation was I did what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
I had complete freedom at Marvel in those days. Um, so I brought that up. I said, I've met Julie. I like Julie, but I'm not sure that that dynamic would work out.
Sure.
And she said, don't worry about it. I mean, she wanted me. And so she was going to make sure that happened. And whatever it was, I assume she had a word with Julie, but Julie never was resentful or, and he was just helpful all the
Hmm.
time. He just didn't, he let me do what I wanted to do. Um, the most striking example is I had Hugo Strange um, beaten to death on camera, so to
Yeah.
speak. And Julie said, I think that'd work better if we did it off camera. And he was right. And, I mean, so I again was not resentful if he needed, but
Hmm.
he didn't really try to micromanage at all, which was not his reputation. But I think Julie just, Julie, he understood comics. He loved comics. He wanted to do good comics. And, possibly this is before my time, so I can't say, but I mean, possibly when he was working with people like Gardner Fox, he needed to kind of like steer Gardner to where he wanted it to go. But and I don't know that for sure, so I'm not saying that.
Sure.
But with me, he
Hmm.
accepted the fact that I knew what I was doing, and I got to say, his new boss had just brought me in to do it. So
Yeah.
but again, he was just a great guy. So he
Hmm.
didn't. Again,
Yeah.
there are people in that company who take offense at stuff like that, but he never did.
That's great. It's great to hear. Because I can always understand if you were to turn in scripts where Batman's just screaming obscenities and he's ripping heads off of people. I can understand an editor being like, "Hey, Steve, we need to redo this." That's
Right,
not Batman. But I mean, otherwise, you hire. I feel like you hire people because you know what they can do. You see what they can do. So it's like you're hiring to trust them to do what they do. And so I'd assume that you understood characters, by at that point. So let Steve do what he does. And so it
right.
should be
Well,
easy for an editor then.
that was Roy Thomas's approach at Marvel. When I came in, he said, I'm going to trust you to do this stuff. If you screw it up, we'll fire
Hmm.
you and get somebody else. I mean, it was an either or situation, but I mean, I was when I started writing, I was told, we trust you.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do. And the stuff that I did sold well and people liked it and so on and so forth. So I, came to figure that I knew what I was doing. And Jeanette thought I knew what I was doing, and so forth. It's not I was going to say it's not like that anymore, but again, I'm not really involved in it anymore, so I can't say give you a blanket
Yeah.
statement like that.
Sure.
But um, there are more levels of editorial, and now with both Disney and Warner's, there's movie ed levels that have to get
Yeah.
involved in it too. So it's
Yeah.
but I was taught trust your instincts and try to entertain people, and since it did work out, then that's what I prefer to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really need. I've had editors over the year go, well, everybody needs an editor. It's like, no, not necessarily.
Maybe not. Maybe
You
not.
know, maybe not.
Someone proves
Uh,
themselves first and then give them, a little bit more slack to do what they
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Uh, did you and the team, and by the team I mean Terry and Marshall, were you getting word at all once these issues were out on if they were their success?
To an extent, not so much from DC, but from, just the
Fans,
comic world in general. Um,
cool.
Once again, DC doesn't really like to tell you how things are doing.
Because then they got to pay you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, going back to Jeanette, when I wrote those scripts, I went to Europe. This is well known. I came back, met Marshall and Terry for the first time, and I was made aware of just how popular that series was. So I went to Jeanette and I said, "How about a little extra?" And she said, "Oh, no, those books didn't sell." You know, which was sort of DC's approach to anything.
Okay.
They'll always tell you that no, it didn't work. Um, when I in the 80s when I did Green Lantern with Joe Staton, Dick Giordano in his editorial column in print said that we had doubled sales on Green Lantern. And so I went to Paul Levitz at that point and I said, hmm? And he's like, no, no.
He
Dick was
doesn't know
just
what he's
saying,
talking about. He doesn't know what
yeah,
he's
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
So, I mean, they're just old school. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just from another era, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, at least you know now,
yeah,
right? You know.
I do know
You
now.
know.
Yeah. Well,
That
that's the thing. I mean, I really loved writing Batman and Justice League
yeah.
and Green Lantern and Mr. Miracle and whatever else I did for. I mean, the work was fun.
Hmm.
Working for them was not fun,
Yeah.
as
I
I
think a
learned.
lot of people can relate in their jobs of people that get to do what they love can say the same thing of like sometimes like what I when I'm doing my job, I really love it. When
Hmm.
the other hands start to get in that cookie jar, it's not fun. Don't like it
Yeah,
at all. And it's
yeah,
always creatively like stifling too. And it's something that I think is funny because universally, I think that's the opinion. Nobody likes micromanagement. And then those people, some of those people are micromanagers. And I'm like, do you not see the irony here? Like,
yeah. I remember thinking way back when, it's like I had trouble understanding people who go, I really like creativity.
mhm.
I think I'll manage it.
Yeah.
Like,
uh,
what? You know,
that's that's something else. Do you
that's my
get
life's goal is to manage people who are creative.
yeah, great
Yeah,
idea. Uh,
yeah.
when the trades of so clearly this, I mean, I just looked in the credits of Dark Detective, and it says originally published in single magazine form in 2005. This trade paperback is 2006. So much quicker turnaround time published in a trade than your
Mm,
first run.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
remember? Do you get copies of this? Do you get heads up on how it's going to look? The front and back cover, what's included? Nothing. How much
No,
of a heads up do you
we
even know
get
they're collecting
copies.
it? Okay.
They send copies
Okay.
when it's done, but no, that's all in-house.
Yeah.
That's editorial, deciding what goes on covers and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Um, I mean, obviously, we pitched the "Vote for Me or I'll Kill You" as a cover,
Yeah.
um, but well, for the issues, actually, Marshall, I guess, would have talked to Julie about or to Joey about what he wanted to do for the covers, and there might have been
Hmm.
back and forth on that. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but when they repackage it, they just do what they want to do.
Because the Strange Apparitions collection has an introduction written by you. I'm always a sucker on the collected edition of stuff because I like more creative, making of stories that, a lot of times the writers will, write an introduction or in the back to talk a little bit more about certain things. Artists will give concept work and stuff. I'm always a sucker for that. And so if there's anything, it's like the trade of Dark Detective, it doesn't have any of that. And it's a little bit of a
Right,
bummer to me.
right.
It's like, ah, come on, DC, just add a little bit. Steve, can
Yeah,
you write a 2-page introduction to this? That's all. Even
yeah,
that, I'd be like, oh, yes, give me that.
yeah. Well, I did that for all the Masterworks at Marvel, right? I mean,
Hmm.
every time they republished my stuff in the Marvel Masterworks, they had me write 3 or 4 pages of,
Hmm.
what was I doing? What are these stories about, et cetera, et cetera. So I would have done that for Batman, but
I'm even and I'm trying to look up now because I think I've said before I always get confused these collections they do of books Legends of the Dark Knight. So there's Legends of the Dark Knight, Marshall Rogers. I think Tales of the Batman, Steve Englehart. So both of those came out 5 or 6 years ago. Some
right.
hardcover collections and no extras. I understand with Marshall it'd be a lot tougher, obviously, but
Yes.
Steve's still around.
Yeah.
Something little extra on that. I think just it helps. it's a selling point. And I mean, I understand companies got to make money, so you'd want some incentive for people like us who triple dip and everything. Hey, buy this too because there's a new introduction, there's some extra story
Right.
elements or something like that. A director's cut.
Writing introductions, I mean, they generally pay like $100 a page or something.
Hmm.
It's not going to break the bank to
Yeah.
do that. But that's, I mean,
I'm just a fan. What
I'm
do I know?
tired of saying, but that's how DC,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
they
understand.
don't think like that.
Well, if I get that one listener, they can hear me blab so many times here, like put a little extra, and we will come back and buy it a second or third time. Uh,
Yep.
I want to respect your time. We're getting really close, and I want to mention that uh, in that collection of Tales of the Batman, Steve Englehart, I came across the Batman Chronicles number 19, in which you
Okay.
wrote a story called "Got a Date with an Angel."
Right.
So yeah, the first time I'd written that, I mean, that I'd read that story was just a few years ago because, it was hard. It hadn't been reprinted at anything. I got to tell you, Steve, I love that story.
Yeah, it was fun.
Great
Seeing
story.
Bruce trying to be a playboy and Batman at the same time. I just thought that was an interesting little
Yeah.
vignette.
And
Um,
we're attracted to the character of Batman and Bruce Wayne, I think, by enjoying his tragedies, you know?
yeah,
And in this
yeah.
one, I don't know. And again, I haven't read every single Batman comic, but there's nothing that comes to mind that takes that approach like you did of like here's Bruce really honestly trying to make the duality work, that he can do
Hmm.
both and that it will work. And we get to see this other character, this other half that is, constantly a good character in which, compliments to you of in a short amount of time, we get a good character here and the disappointment that keeps happening to her and then the tragedy of it all at the end of Bruce finally does hang up the cape and cowl early one night to go have a normal good fun civilian life and then is greeted by tragedy, like the bad outcome because he did that and his guilt. And I mean, like, man, what a 17 pages is what I think it was. It was like a double sized issue. It was 17 pages. I'm like, Steve, man, I can call you Steve now, because we're pals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and now it's like that was just good stuff. I don't know if many people ever talk about that to you or anything, but I think that's such a great issue for people to track down and read because I think it's great.
Yeah, it just, I love the character and
Hmm.
exploring the different aspects of that character. I mean, I think there's a lot of aspects to that character. He's not a one-note guy like
Yeah.
sometimes he's portrayed. Um, but yeah, I mean, all those little one shots. Did the three-part thing with the Riddler about,
Yeah.
when he lost his soul and had to get it back and so
Hmm.
forth. I mean, it's just um, and there's a two-part Mad Hatter story, which has also never been published. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, I did that, and all I know is they said
Yeah.
we're not doing it.
Oh,
So
bummer.
it actually had art. I'm blanking the name. Good guy. Um, yeah, it was all drawn too, but they've never published it.
Oh, that's a
Um,
bummer.
mm, you know,
Mad Hatter, that's another we were saying C-list villain or D-list or something, but he's, because there's so much Batman content, we see a little he's not as infrequent as he once was. And I think that's a made him a, they've given him some substance. If he can be a threatening
hmm
character, which is,
hmm
it's fun now to see when he does pop up. So that one
Yeah,
DC guy can listen to this again, track that down. It's already done.
it is too. Trevor Von Eden, that's the name I'm looking
Oh,
for.
okay.
He
Gotcha.
did the art on that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So,
All right. Well, you're sitting on tons of work. It just needs printed and published. Come on.
yeah,
Raking in the money here. Uh, Steve, this is a fast hour. It was a really fast hour last time I talked to you, which is a
yeah.
good sign. It's a good what are you is there anything that you want to any direction you want to guide people to you have a website? I don't think you do social media stuff, but you have a
I
website?
don't know. Yeah, the website is just steveenglehart.com. Easy to find. There's an email link if somebody needs to email me. Um, no, I probably said last time, I'm just sort of writing stories now that interest me. Um,
Excellent.
Not really concerned with whether they get published or not.
Hmm.
Um, uh, when interest was expressed for the third Batman thing, that was interesting,
Hmm.
not only for me but for Marshall. I mean, it would have been nice, even though Marshall wasn't going
Yeah.
to do the art, would have been nice, to kind of
Yeah.
revisit the fact that Marshall was the guy. Um, but you know, it's disappointing that it somehow took a left turn over there, and at the same time, it's not life or death
Yeah.
for me. If DC don't want to publish it, DC don't want to publish it. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll hold on to hope because that's what I do. It will
yeah,
be published one of these days. So, Steve, thanks. I mean, all I can just keep saying is thanks. Well, first off, thanks for writing Batman and good Batman. And then also thanks for sitting down here and yet again and talking to me.
sure, happy to do it.